These are the biggest fights to make after UFC Azerbaijan. Do not expect me to be making fights for the women or to be making fights for Azat Maksum. We're only going to be talking about the big dogs. So, we'll start with Yoon Park, the Iron Turtle, the guy that delivered my Chinese food last week. Look, Iron Turtle, I love him. You guys love him. He's on a 2-fight winning streak. So I'm not going to give him someone ranked, but he deserves a name. And that name is Bo Nickel. I say we do Iron Turtle versus Bo Nickel. Now, I didn't mind the idea of doing Bo Nickel versus maybe a Torres Finney, I believe is his name. What's the kid's name? Yeah, Torres Finney. I didn't mind that, but he's facing Bakoyev, and that's a great fight in itself, even though it's in the Apex. So I say we do Iron Turtle versus Bo Nickel. I think it's good matchmaking. I think stylistically it's very winnable for both guys. I think Iron Turtle would probably win that pretty comfortably. But it's very winnable for Bo Nickel. He's going to be improving from his last fight, of course. And I think overall, losing to Rainier de Ritter is no shame. There's no shame in that. And it's a good experience for him to have this early in his career. So I say we do that fight. I think it's a sick fight. Iron Turtle versus Bo Nickel. That could be like the co-main event or the feature fight of like a fight night, or it could be, you could put that as the main event of a prelims on a pay-per-view, whatever you want to do. I'm not sure, but I really love that fight. I think scheduling-wise, it matches up because, Bo Nickel didn't fight that long ago. Iron Turtle just fought. He's going to take a little bit of time off. Bo Nickel's going to take some time off. He's not the most active guy. So, yeah, I think that's perfect. That's what I would do. Moving on to Sung Young Ko, the other guy that delivered my Chinese food. Now, he destroyed Oban Elliott. We're not going to really talk about Oban Elliott because he should fight Billy Goff, I think. That's what I would do, but I'm not going to really break that one down. I love Oban Elliott, but you got destroyed by Sung Young Ko as if you were stealing from his store. Get out of my store. Why are you stealing from my store? He just beat the crap out of him. So I say we do Sung Young Ko versus Ramiz Brahimage. Now, the match, it was supposed to be, I believe, Oban Elliott versus Brahimage, Ko versus Billy Goff, I think. And obviously they kind of like switched it because of the timing and everything, the scheduling. So let's do Ko versus Ramiz Brahimage. I almost forgot his name. Let's do Ko versus Ramiz Brahimage. Sick fight. I think the winner of that fight should undisputedly get a ranked opponent. 100%. I think the winner of that fight should get a ranked opponent. I think both guys have been on good runs. I mean, Sung Young Ko doing that to Oban Elliott is impressive. It is impressive, and it's not, it wasn't just, he just out-grappled him. Like, he did really good on the ground. He had some good grappling exchanges, some good transitions, and he pieced him up a little bit on the feet. So, yeah, I think Sung Young Ko, Ramiz Brahimage. Brahimage is on a crazy winning streak as well. Well, I think he's only like on a 2-fight winning streak, but still, like, he had like a crazy sub in his last fight and then a flatline KO before that. Let's get these welterweights in these good positions. So, Ramiz Brahimage, Sung Young Ko, smash them together. Winner gets a bottom-ranked opponent at welterweight. Now, let's move on. Nazim Sadikov versus Nicholas Mota took place. Nazim Sadikov won. I was about to spoil who I was going to give Nazim to. He beat Nicholas Mota. Sick fight. One of the best fights of the year. I say we do. You know what? I was thinking about this, and this one's kind of tricky because there's so many good lightweights right outside the rankings. So I don't even know if this is really fair, but I think scheduling-wise it could match up, and I think it's a favorable matchup. Nazim Sadikov versus Benoit Saint-Denis. I know Benoit. I love Benoit Saint-Denis, but he probably would say no to that, and stylistically, I think he'd probably get KO'd or just badly pieced up. Here's the thing. Nazim Sadikov is coming off of 2 wins, a draw, and then I believe 2 or 3 wins before the draw. So he's on an unbeaten streak. He's on like a 5-fight unbeaten streak. Something like that. Like, who's going to face Benoit when you think about it? Are they going to do Gamrot Benoit? You could, but like, I don't know, man. I think Benoit Saint-Denis, Nazim Sadikov, I would much rather see that. Let's get some new blood at lightweight. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about Bahamondes because that kind of peed me off because it's like, damn, bro, like, we wanted some excitement at the top of lightweight. Now we got to watch Fiziev try his hand at the top 10 guys again. But it is what it is. I love Fiziev. I'm just saying. Nonetheless, Nazim Sadikov, Benoit's underneath. This would be a sick fight. It matches up because I'm assuming Benoit would want to be on UFC Fight Night Paris. So it matches up really well with that fight night because you could do Nazim versus Benoit as like the co-main event or even the main event, really. I wouldn't mind if it was the main event as long as you stack the undercard. I don't think it's a bad main event. Or you don't even have to put a French guy in the main event. You could put a fucking Canadian for all I care. But that's the fight to make. It would be a freaking war. You guys, you tell me you don't want to see Benoit versus Nazim Sadikov? I would love that fight. So that's what I would do. Moving on, I'm looking at my list here. Orolbai. Mitsabek Orolbai. This one's tricky because he's coming off of one win, obviously a Fight of the Year contender before that, then I believe 2 wins. He missed weight, but he beat a good name in Tofik Mosaev. This is tricky. I would say do him versus, I'm saying it's tricky as if I don't already have it written down, but Manuel Torres. I say do him versus Manuel Torres. I think him versus Manuel Torres is good because Manuel Torres is coming off of one win against Drew Dober, which is a good win. And, he flatline KO'd him. But it's like it's Drew Dober at this stage, and it's not like an insane win. And Manuel Torres, there's not really a clear guy for him to face next. UFC Noche, Torres versus Orolbai. I think that's kind of perfect. Both of these guys like kind of deserve someone coming off of a win or 2 wins, and I think mashing them up against each other is really good matchmaking, to be honest, because, again, Orolbai does not deserve like a Chase Hooper, in my opinion. Chase Hooper should be looking like up, He doesn't deserve like a Fereziam. Terrence McKinney you can, but I just don't care to see that. Like, he would just sub Terrence McKinney in a round probably. I say do him versus Manuel Torres. I think stylistically it'd be a super, super fun fight. It's winnable for both guys. I think it's perfect. I think that's the fight to make. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Orolbai versus Manuel Torres. Now, Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes. Curtis Blaydes robbed Rizvan Kuniev. We're not going to talk about Rizvan Kuniev. You could put him against like Mo Usman, I guess. But Curtis Blaydes robbed Rizvan Kuniev, in my opinion. And I picked Curtis Blaydes to win. So I'm not going to be one of those where it's like, well, I picked him to win, so I'm going to cope and say that it wasn't a robbery. No, it was a robbery. I don't care. Curtis Blaydes robbed Rizvan Kuniev, and they should have not given him that fight. But they did, and I love Curtis Blaydes. So I'm not super angry at it, right? I say we do, what's his name? Yeah, what's the kid's name? Curtis Blaydes? We do him versus Volkov. I was almost going to skip this one because I just don't know really what to do with heavyweight. Him versus Volkov, I guess. I mean, you could do him versus Volkov. Volkov's looking for an opponent. Scheduling-wise, I guess it matches up. I mean, if Curtis Blaydes has a bad knee injury, honestly, if he's injured, then he's just going to have to wait for a name to pop up because it's either him versus Volkov or him versus the air. Him versus a meal. Like, honestly, bro. Him versus a diet. Like, there's really nothing else for him because he's going to want to fight up. He beat Rizvan Kuniev. If he's going to have to fight down, you could be looking at names like, even then, who? Shamil Gaziev? Like, Shamil Gaziev should get a title shot. Like, he shouldn't be having to fight Curtis Blaydes. He should be getting Tom Maspinall next. So, we're in a tricky spot right now when it comes to Curtis Blaydes. Him winning kind of causes more problems because if Kuniev would have beat him, especially emphatically, if he would have KO'd him, that would have been great because then we could be looking ahead to Rizvan Kuniev-Volkov, fresh matchup. Rizvan Kuniev, even like the winner Pavlovich-Cortez or any of these other fights. Now we have to... I don't want Blaydes versus Volkov, but there's not a lot of options, so it is what it is. Curtis Blaydes versus Volkov, or he can just sit out and wait and maybe see if Tai Tuivasa is gonna go on a diet sometime soon. So that's what I got for Curtis Blaydes. Now let's move on to the loser of the co-main event, Ignacio Bahamondes. I picked him to win. You guys know that. It doesn't really matter. I don't care about picks anymore. Look, Ignacio Bahamondes, he lost. He did okay. He fought a good fight, as the kids would say. But he didn't do enough to win, obviously. And, yeah, he pretty much just got kind of outclassed at times by my GOAT, Rafael Fiziev. But I like Bahamondes as well. I say we do him versus Ludovic Klein. I think him versus Ludovic Klein is really good matchmaking. They're both coming off of losses. They both kind of failed their tests. Like Ludovic Klein failed the Gamrot test, if you will, the ranking test. And Brahimage, he failed the Fiziev test. Both of these guys were given big opportunities, and they both fumbled. And I don't know what's up with this new generation of fighters, or specifically at lightweight, where they keep failing these big tests, Hey, Brahimage, here's Fiziev, doesn't get it done. Hey, Klein, here's Gamrot, doesn't get it done. It's just, I would like to see some new blood at lightweight, but none of them can beat anybody. Like, none of them could just win. And then it's like, then the guard under, so you got the Fizievs and the Gamrots, right? But then Fiziev and Gamrot can't be names like Dan Hooker and Gaethje. And then Dan Hooker and Gaethje can't be any champion. So it's just like, lightweight is just locked. It's just locked, and it's kind of shit, to be honest. Lightweight is kind of shit, is my point. Yeah, Brahimage versus Ludovic Klein. Stylistically, it'd be super fun. It matches up scheduling-wise because neither guy took a lot of damage in their last fights at all. And you could do that on UFC Noche. I think you could do that on UFC Noche on the same card as Torres versus Orobai. There's a lot of options. The UFC, they have a lot of options. They have a lot of guys that are going to be available by the end of the year. So I don't want to see these cards. I want to see stacked freaking cards, right? That's the whole point of this. So let's do Brahimage versus Ludovic Klein. Now, the winner of the co-main event, Rafael Fiziev. This one's tricky. This one's very, very, very tricky. And it causes a little bit more problems than it does create solutions because Fiziev has already faced Gaethje twice. Fiziev has already faced Gamrot, which is the fight I was going to consider doing, but doesn't interest me. I'm sorry. I'd rather see like Fiziev get Gamrot, like an unranked guy, or you could do like a Grant Dawson Gamrot or Moicano. I was even thinking like if Moicano beats Dariush, you could do Moicano versus Gamrot. There's a lot of other names. So I don't really want Fiziev Gamrot. I don't want to see that again. It doesn't really interest me. I'm sure it'd be a fun fight because obviously that we saw what happened the first time. His knee exploded, so it didn't really get to, grow. Knee grow. That's racist. Anyways, Fiziev versus who the fuck? Hooker. Dan Hooker. Fiziev versus Dan Hooker. I say we do Fiziev versus Dan Hooker. I think that's the fight to make. I think it's a good fight. I don't know. I think stylistically it'd be super fun. I think there's not a lot of options for Dan Hooker. Like, who's he going to fight? You could do him versus Max Holloway, but scheduling-wise, does it match up really well? Whereas I think Fiziev's going to want to be active. He took very minimal damage in this fight. The weight cuts are not hard for him the way it is for like a Paddy Pimblett. Like, the reason Paddy Pimblett is so inactive is because he's fat, basically. He gets too fat, so he has to really like take months to like slim down, I guess. I'm not really sure. But Fiziev, it's not a bad weight cut for him. He can make 155 very easily. I think he can make a very quick turnaround. And I think him versus Dan Hooker is a great fight. I think it's a great fight. The UFC are returning to Perth at the end of the year as well. So it matches up really well. There's not much else to say. It's a banger. It speaks for itself. That could be on a pay-per-view. That could be on a fight night. That could be the co-main event of UFC Australia fight night. Because I do believe they're going to Australia this year, but I think it's a fight night. I don't think it's a pay-per-view. But even then, if you want to put that on like the undercard of Makhachev versus JDM, or if you want to put that on like any card, really, it would really boost up that card. So it is what it is. I think Dan Hooker, Fiziev is a sick fight. Now, the loser of the main event, Jamal Hill. This one's very easy. Azamat Merzakonov. I think this one is easy. I said this when Merzakonov won his last fight. I said, we should do the winner of, we should do Azamat Merzakonov versus the loser of Hill versus Roundtree. I think that's great matchmaking. I think Merzakonov is old. He's like 36, 37. We can't waste time trying to build this guy up. He's not a prospect. He's got insane KO power. He's got slick boxing. I think him versus Jamal Hill as a fight night main event is kind of perfect. Or even as a on a pay-per-view, it would kind of work for me as well. Like, not as like a co-main event, but like a feature fight or the opener of like a pay-per-view. Like, there's options there. You could put that on the undercard of like whatever Aspinall's first defense is going to be. I think that's the fight to make. Stylistically, it'd be a fucking banger. And I know bangers, so I think it'd be a banger. I think it'd be super fun to watch. I think Merzakonov would win that one, but, it is what it is. It's still a good fight. It's still stylistically very good. And I think Merzakonov could win, but Jamal Hill's Jamal Hill. So, the kid's always going to be in the fight, And the winner of the main event, Khalil Roundtree. I've seen some people say do him versus Yuri. I don't think it matches up scheduling wise at all. Because I don't know how active Roundtree is planning to be, but his last fight was in November. Before that, I'm not sure when he fought, but he's not the most active guy, man. And I don't think he's going to step in. Yuri's looking to fight in August, September, October. So I don't think, Roundtree could make that quick of a turnaround. He didn't take a lot of damage, but I say we do Khalil Roundtree versus Dominic Reyes. I think that's better. I think Yuri versus Oldberg is right there. I think Yuri versus, even if you want to give him a title shot, that's right there. But I say we do Roundtree versus Dominic Reyes, man. I think it's time. Dominic Reyes, I don't care personally to see him versus Rakic. I'm talking about Dominic Reyes, that is. I don't care to see him versus Rakic or fucking Jamal Hill coming off of No, let's do him versus Khalil Roundtree. Let's see if he could beat Khalil Roundtree. You could even do that as a fight night main event 5-rounder just to give him actual time to... I think that's a great fight. I just think it's a great fight. I think it's better than the Yuri fight. The Yuri fight would be a war, it'd be a banger, it'd be fun. But I'm more intrigued by Reyes versus Roundtree. So that's all I got for you guys today. Make sure you guys like and sub. Become a member in the description. Do you guys agree with my picks? Not my picks, but do you guys agree with my, you know what I fucking mean. Not my picks, but what's the word? Anyways, my matchmaking. There you go. See you guys, and peace.